With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels on everything from lamps to ceiling fans, even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes, now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox, clean feels good.
Rain-X wipers are the #1 wiper blades in America. That means all kinds of drivers choose Rain-X. Big drivers in small cars choose Rain-X. Small drivers in big cars choose Rain-X. Drivers with long hair and short commutes choose Rain-X. Drivers with short hair and long commutes choose Rain-X. Drivers with pets on board, babies on board, and bored babies on board choose Rain-X. Basically, drivers who love a clear view of the road all choose Rain-X wipers, the #1 wiper blades in America.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I'm going to talk about how you can, in fact, try new things without worrying that you are compromising your true self. And I do have a bit of a sore throat, so that may account for the difference in my tonality. So I just don't like to throw anything at you. That's different. It's like Mr. Rogers, he always put on his sweater and he took his shoes, he changed his shoes. So if my voice is different, I don't want it to discombobulate anybody. Anyway, so please do subscribe for all the most recent episodes. I am having more people as guests. You can always comment, by the way, or you could reach out to me at Samantha@drpsychmom.com and tell me who you would recommend I reach out to as a guest. Obviously, if they're extremely famous, that is really a low probability, but, other people may do it. So certainly give me your thoughts and your suggestions. Anyway, some people that I work with in couples counseling, they really feel that if they try new things, then it is that they are sacrificing or abandoning themselves. And so that means that if they're, for example, let's say that they are with a partner who loves pop music and they don't love pop music. They think that if they went to a concert, a Taylor Swift concert or whatever concert, then they would be basically sacrificing and abandoning their core self, and it's not in line with their values, and their values are that they think that pop music is stupid and they always did, and so they don't do that. Now, I am here to tell you that going to a concert that is a different sort of music does not matter. Like, all it matters is that you're being a good partner. You are not being rigid. You are, in fact, being open-minded and flexible. Or, for example, if you will not open your mind to hearing your partner's feedback, that you have something to work on. So there's people with ADHD, for example, and the partner says, can you maybe try medication for ADHD? And they're like, no way, because this is my core self, my core personality. And if I do that, then who am I really? And, you should basically love me how I am. I was always like this and blah, blah, blah. Or, of course, the example of the sex life, right? Women who say, no, I will not learn anything about my body or drive or responsive desire or anything, because if I want it, I want it. If I don't, I don't. And that just is what it is. And it's been like that since I was in my 20s. And so why should I think about anything any differently? That would be hurting my core self. Here's the thing about your core self. It changes and it grows. There is nobody who is the same at 80 as they are at 20. There's nobody who's the same at 19 as they are at 20, as they are at 21. We are constantly changing and growing. And the biggest flex, as the kids say, is to grow in ways that show open-mindedness and love to your family or your friends or whoever is meaningful to you. So if your partner wishes that you could think about something differently, and the reason that you will not even try is because you feel that you're abandoning your core self, there's usually a reason for that. And it is that you grew up in a home where you did not feel respected. So if your core needs or values or even preferences were not taken into account as much as they should have been during the critical developmental window, particularly of adolescence, So there's a lot of people who recount these very strict upbringings where as an adolescent, they were not allowed to do anything they wanted to do. They couldn't be like the other children. They had to stay home when everybody went out, or they couldn't get the haircut everybody had, or whatever. Then when they get older, they say, I will never basically let anybody tell me what to do. And they conflate control with closeness, If somebody's trying to be close and say, here's something that's important to me, can you maybe try it? That is usually a bid for closeness, a bid for connection, as Gottman says. Somebody's saying, hey, can you maybe look at this a little bit differently or try this new thing? It would mean a lot to me. And because the person grew up thinking that, there's another way, by the way, but I'll say that in a minute. But because the person grew up thinking that other people did not value them, now they're on the lookout for seeing not being valued and seeing getting looked down on or having your preferences not matter. So let's say the Taylor Swift concert guy, right? He's basically thinking that by her inviting him to see Taylor Swift, which he doesn't really like, is her not knowing his core self. Ironically, then he's becoming the thing that he most doesn't want her to be, which is close-minded and not seeing her true self. And he can't give her the experience of having her loving husband at the pop concert because he's so obsessed with the idea of his core self not being recognized as somebody who doesn't like pop music. And of course, the same thing with the intimate sphere. So if the partner ever had anything bad happen sexually, or even not sexually, just relationally at home in the ways that I'm saying, where your needs were not taken into account, you weren't allowed, to really express yourself at the critical juncture of childhood and really adolescence, then it's hard to see that getting outside your own box and maybe trying new things would be okay. It seems like you're renouncing your own self. And avoidant people struggle with this the most because they already struggle with vulnerability. They already don't trust other people to not want too much from them and to not have these uncomfortable relationships where they feel that they're always scared. Avoidant people are always scared that their needs are not going to matter. So they put up all these walls and all these guards so that they can prioritize themselves, their preferences, and their needs over everything. And that can't be good either, right? That's swinging too far in the other direction. So an ideal securely attached relationship, both people have a core self. So it's like the classic Venn diagram. Both people have a core self, and then there's an overlap where they have things that they do together and that they're interested in together. And this can change and grow. And in that overlap can be activities, preferences, or ways of thinking that were initiated by each partner. And then the other partner said, that's not so bad. Actually, that's kind of interesting or good. And that's something that I'm going to get interested in too. And maybe I'll just be interested sometimes. And we'll go to one pop concert a year. Not that I recommend being so, mathematical and rigid about it, or they could say, you know what, I actually like Taylor Swift. That's, by the way, the happiest women, just FYI, the happiest women. And this is actually borne out by Gottman research that says that the most important thing for marriage is when men accept influence. And for women, it's a soft or gentle approach, so that you don't lead into conflict like just crazy and yelling, and instead you have like this soft lead up that's associated with positive outcomes for the marriage in men. But for women, it's feeling that the husband accepts influence. And the happiest women are the ones who say, he didn't like Taylor Swift and now he does. Because you feel important, you feel good, you feel like, wow, he really changed his mind about something because of me. And that makes somebody feel very good, especially if they are the preoccupied partner and the one who has finally accepted influence has historically been the avoidant partner. And it's the exact same thing that I see when men finally, decide that they're going to work on the ADHD. And I see, I obviously have a podcast, ADHD in Women, but I see it more in men. And I have the book, I recommend the book all the time by Melissa Orlov, The ADHD Effect on Marriage. And it can be transformed when the person with ADHD, often but not always the guy, says, you know what, you're right. I've been reading up on ADHD and you're right, I probably do have it and it sounds like it sucks for you. And I'm either going to get some coaching on it or I'm going to try meds or what have you, or at least I'll even get diagnosed or whatever. So that can be transformative because she feels super validated. She feels like finally he listened to me. So he changed his mind on that. And then, of course, in the intimate arena, there's a lot of guys who say, oh, yeah, I've been reading Dr. Seigmann's stuff on responsive desire. And, like if we just try, then maybe our sex life, maybe you'll get in the mood if we try kissing or we try massage or something. And there's women who say, hell no. And then there's women who say, okay, send me the article. That sounds interesting. And guess who has happier marriages? It doesn't matter how much more sex they have or end up having. It matters literally that the person is willing to try. That they just acknowledge that something is important to you, they're willing to try, and they're putting the marriage in that moment over their own comfort of never changing and saying, basically, I am what I am. And I have a podcast called I Am What I Am, and I Am What I Am is not good. That is Popeye, that is not a healthy relationship. And if you also, it kind of indicates an emotional immaturity as well, being somebody who will say that they already know everything. That is what an adolescent says. That's like classic adolescent, is thinking that you know everything. But as an adult, you're supposed to get beyond that. You're supposed to say, I don't really know what I don't know. And at midlife is a classic time where people admit that and they say, what else is out there? What other information is out there? How else can I think about things? Of course, if you're, emotionally healthy and open, it's going to go better at work. It's going to go better with friends. It's going to go better as a couple. It's going to go better certainly as a parent to not be closed-minded to whatever your children say. Not that you have to be on board with everything, but certainly your children want to think that if they say something, it's not going to destroy you. You're not going to judge them mercilessly because you can't get outside your box. And this can be really about any age child, from a child that is in the home to a child that's out of the home. And I have a lot about how the sort of parents that end up estranged from their adult children are the I am what I am kind of parents. They say basically, for example, I always thought you'd marry within our religion. And that is what I'm comfortable with. And now that you haven't, I'm not going to be able to be part of your life. Well, then guess what? They don't end up part of the person's life and they don't end up seeing the grandchildren. And often they end up regretting it quite a bit. Or anything else. A parent that isn't comfortable with the child's sexual orientation or with their career path or with their choice of spouse or anything. So if you cannot be, and by the way, the parent often says this sort of I am what I am framework. They say, kind of like in Fiddler on the Roof, where he changed his perspective, Tevye, for both of the girls until he got to the little one, who the youngest one wanted to marry somebody who wasn't Jewish, and he couldn't do it. He basically said, this is a bridge too far. I forget the quote, but he could not change in that way, and then they probably never saw each other again. And that was very tragic, and that was because he could not accommodate change to his core self and his core beliefs. So any relationship is going to go better if you can understand why you have certain ways of thinking that may be more rigid and more self-focused, often originating in childhood, which can be uncovered with more deep insight-oriented work and thought and reading, etc. And then, you have to think, how is this influencing my marriage or my parenting or whatever, for me to basically say, no, this is who I am. I've been the same pretty much always. I'm never going to change, and I will not open my mind to other ways of thinking. Because I'll tell you in advance, it does not usually go well, and those are more of the people that end up in my office. All right, I hope you guys found this useful, and I hope it led to an aha moment, and I will link to the relevant episodes that expand on this, including I Am What I Am, and I will talk to y'all soon. Have a great day, guys.